Yo, what those up? Welcome back to Reviews with Jake, where I just got done watching My Spy. My Spy is the story about a badass CIA spy who's been put on surveillance over a woman and her 9-year-old daughter. However, his cover is eventually blown by the 9-year-old girl, who extorts him into kind of teaching her the ways of badassdom in exchange for keeping his secret. Let me take you all the way back to 2019, a time seemingly so long ago before we were all crammed into our houses while the world burns outside. I was at the movie theater and I saw the first trailer for this movie for the first time. After watching, I was like, meh, doesn't look very original or groundbreaking, but Bautista's the man. I'll jot it on my list. Now, formation of my list generally involves me going to the Coming Soon page on IMDb and going weekend by weekend and selecting a movie per week and decide which ones I'm going to see and review each week. Kind of allows me to be a little bit more methodical and plan ahead in my approach. Obviously, I've had to change my tactics a little bit the last couple of months given the circumstances, but generally this method works for me. However, every now and then I'll have that dodgy, pesky movie that's moved its release date 1,000 times that forces me to reevaluate and rearrange my list a little bit. I mean, obviously this year it's happened like with every single movie, but before this year, I mean, it's been pretty rare. The most noteworthy that I would probably peg are between The New Mutants and this. This movie's been playing hopscotch on my schedule for well over a year now, with its release date just jumping around all over the damn place. In fact, the infographic that I used for Ready or Not in August 2019, the photo in that infographic was originally meant to be for this movie, but then it got pushed back and I looked at that photo that had already been taken and I was like, close enough. This movie has seriously had at least 5 different release dates over the past couple of years. Like, not even exaggerating, probably more. And with each time that it got pushed back, I grew more and more pessimistic about it. The first and most obvious of which being that delays are generally not associated with good movies. Whether it's for reshoots or reevaluating and strategizing when to dump this movie on us to make as much money as you possibly can, no matter what explanation there is, the studios clearly weren't very confident in it, so why would I be? Pair that with the fact that because this movie has been delayed so many times, this trailer has been on a ridiculous run. I feel like every movie I went to in the theaters, I would see this damn trailer, and it got so old. My enthusiasm and excitement and curiosity for this movie just got sucked out little by little, and by the time that it came out now, I have nothing left. Lo and behold, here we are, another movie that was supposed to have a theatrical release and they just dumped it onto a streaming service and slapped the original on it. The scoreboard in 2020 for movies like this is just disheartening, but hey, maybe this is when Bobby Boucher shows up at halftime and the Mud Dogs win the Bourbon Bowl. The pros for this movie are undoubtedly highlighted by Dave Bautista. Every single thing that is positive about this movie somehow hinges off of him. If he were not in it, this movie would not work at all. What can you say? The man is damn funny. He has impeccable timing and delivery. I mean, he is just a funny dude, and I'm glad that he continues to dive into these roles because he's comfortable there and he thrives. He also allows for this movie to have some authenticity in its action sequences. If you're going to have action in your movie, even if it's not the primary focus of the movie, it helps to have an accomplished action star as your lead. Don't get me wrong, the action is pretty few and far between, but when it happens, it's well made. It's not overproduced, the hits feel like they actually land, and it works. Do I think it's amazing in that regard? No, but do I think it's better than a lot of other movies that have come out this year that have probably tried a lot harder than this one did to make a good action sequence? Probably. It's just a pleasant, light movie. I mean, you've probably seen 1,000 other movies like this with the action star paired with the kid. It's not original, but I mean, it's a formula that works because it's just, I don't know, cute. However, the cuteness did run thin for me from my perspective. I mean, it did very little to pave its own path from these other very similar movies that have probably done it a little bit better. You know exactly what's going to happen in this movie before you push play. It's super predictable. Like, they try and toss a few curveballs into the plot, but honestly, these curveballs just kind of poke holes into the plot that had already been established. Like, they kind of felt like afterthoughts. Like, the filmmakers knew that this film was not original, so they tried to spice it up a little bit, but it kind of just ruined everything that they had already done. This was just a super uneven movie. It genuinely did not feel like it knew what it wanted to be. You go from these lively action sequences with like slow-mo and whatnot, like pretty epic stuff, to really fun, light-hearted comedy, and then it goes to like their attempt at emotionally charged moments. The tonal shifts in this movie were just super jarring. Like, straight up, there was a moment in this movie where you go in the same minute from Britney Spears' Hit Me Baby One More Time to like a sad piano number. Like within the same damn minute, it felt like two kids fighting over the TV remote. As mentioned before, the action sequences were coherent enough, I guess, but the comedy and drama was very thin. The emotional attempts in this movie felt very lackluster because all the characters in the movie had personality traits that were very inflated. They almost felt like cartoons, which works for the sake of comedy, but for the sake of having real grounded characters, you don't buy it because they don't feel like real people. Which is fine, you know, not every movie needs to deliver laughs and tears. You can just have a funny movie, but the problem is this movie just wasn't that funny, from anyone's standards. Like, who was the audience for this movie? Who was it made for? It's PG-13, but it felt PG. Like 70% of the humor was definitely tailored toward kids, you know, that family fun, kind of whimsical, slapstick approach almost. But then 30% of the jokes were definitely aimed at adults with questionable content that kids probably shouldn't be hearing. It makes this film land in like a comedy purgatory because it was trying to just kind of appease both sides of it, but that's a very tricky thing to do. It takes incredibly clever writing to appease both audiences at once. You can't just alternate one to the other back and forth the whole movie like you're throwing bread into a couple different fish ponds. I also think that the kid humor was just way too contemporary for today. It was way too 2020. Seeing Dave Bautista dabbing and doing dances from Fortnite or calling out very specific apps that are popular and relevant today. I mean, these are all things that are like questionably funny even by today's standards, but with each passing year when we forget about these things, it's gonna be less and less funny. It's not gonna have much shelf life. All in all, Dave Bautista was the only redeeming quality that this movie had. Really didn't enjoy any other aspect of it, but honestly, that wasn't a shock to me after the delay game that they played for so long. Like if I had seen this movie over a year ago when I first saw the trailer, I probably would have actually been disappointed by it, but after this whole song and dance, it was the exact movie that I thought it was going to be. I'm going to give My Spy a D+. But that's just me. What do you guys think? Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below. And make sure you're subscribed to this channel to stay up to date on new reviews coming real soon. Stay safe and thanks for checking in.